So I'm excited to introduce our guest today, the award-winning Canadian singer and songwriter and producer, Elenee. She's just released her new single, I Don't Want It, which reminds us that while worldly success can be fleeting and often comes with strings attached, a life guided by faith and led by God offers deep and lasting fulfillment. Take a look at this music video.
That lamp for my feet, don't know where to go now, but the Lord's in the lead. When He guides my way, the path is straight. I don't need to worry, I'm looking for the light now. I'm looking for the light now. 'Cause if God's in the middle, then there's good in the center, and I know I'll find peace. When it don't make sense, I'll find my rest, 'cause He'll take care of me. And if God's not in it, then I don't want it. 'Cause when God's in the middle, in the big and the little, I've got all that I need. I never even knew how to live a life that's unseen. He's teaching me to walk out His heavenly dreams. When He shows the way, I find my strength. It's all that I need. He's teaching me to walk out. He's teaching me to walk out. 'Cause if God's in the middle, then there's good in the center, and I know I'll find peace. When it don't make sense, I'll find my rest, 'cause He'll take care of me. And if God's not in it, then I don't want it. 'Cause when God's in the middle, in the big and the little, I've got all that I need. You can take your love for the world all around you, see, 'cause I don't want it. You can take your fame and your praises for men and the money, 'cause I don't want it.
What a great song and message. Well, thank you for joining us today, Elenee. We're so grateful to have you here.
Thank you so much for having me.
So our viewers just heard your song, I Don't Want It. And so why don't you maybe describe to us or share with us a personal experience or experiences that inspired this message of I Don't Want It?
Well, Emily, I think the most simplest way to put it is that as we live in a world that is so full of discontentment, and you hit the hammer on the head, clutter. So many things, so many distractions, just a world full of stuff. And part of that is opportunities. And some of them look really amazing on the outside, but on the inside, they don't have really your best interest at heart. So the song I Don't Want It was birthed out of this place of me looking around and, from a really specific standpoint at the music industry for myself and saying like, okay, what do I want out of, making music? Where am I going to go next? And all of these opportunities started popping up. Things looked really promising and amazing. And when I started having conversations with, some of the powers that be, it felt very dark and just not right. I didn't feel peace about it. And so I started to pen the words to the bridge that you hear in the song, you can take your, 'cause I don't want it. And so for myself, that's the specific experience. I think for everyone that has listened to the song, they've kind of paired it with a different, part of their life. And I think that is so cool.
Mm-hmm. So how did this change or affect your own perspective then on worldly success, especially in something like the music industry?
Well, man, the track record of artists for, decades, it's so sad to see some of the most successful artists. I'm talking, secular, Christian, whatever. And they, their music is so powerful and so uplifting and wonderful, but yet their personal lives are in chaos and they're hurting people and they're hurting. And so I think it's pretty obvious that when you are dealing with, the spiritual battles, that is the music that we put out as artists, we have to be aware that, when we're putting ourselves in that position, we're going to face the adversary. We're going to face some situations that aren't so great. And so the music around us that we listen to, I think it's pretty obvious that there are powers at work. And so when I put out music, I want it to be that encouragement, but also first and foremost, I want my heart to be in a place where I'm able to put out that music and able to encourage people as well as myself. I think that's where it all starts.
Yeah, it's a different definition of success for sure.
Yeah.
So, any Bible verses or spiritual teachings that sort of resonated with you while creating this song? Because it's got such a clear, deep message.
Mm-hmm. There's a parable, or I don't know if it's a parable or just something that Jesus says, but in the Gospels, he says, it's easier for a camel to go through an eye of a needle than for a rich man to get into heaven. And I don't think there's anything wrong with wealth and, doing the things and getting rewarded and all that stuff. I think treasure and all that stuff is amazing. And I think God really does bless his people. But I also think that we need to be aware that God's blessing sometimes doesn't look like wealth and treasure. And we've equated those two things, especially like in North America, because we really have no lack for the most part. And so I think that we need to, go back to the scripture and see what Jesus has to say about the things that, can so easily distract us from what he has called us to do and to be.
Yeah, I love that because it's what, we even described at the beginning, right? Centering us on what really matters. And I think that's a question when you are maybe in the music world or in a scene that can be very secular is like, what matters to you, right? Are you founded on your faith? And is
Yes.
that's what is helping you in this season or driving you forward? So it seems like you're talking from some personal experience. Can you describe maybe a time that you had to say, I don't want it, to an opportunity that looked really good, but just didn't align with your beliefs?
Oh man, that's a great question. It's hard for me to narrow it down to one specific thing without, naming names, but I think that as a whole, I have learned as an artist, as a wife, and as a mom to set boundaries just in my own life, because I think it's important that when we look at our ministries that we have, and everybody's involved in so many different things, my first and foremost and most important ministry that I have is with my family. That's, nurturing my marriage and nurturing my children. And so my husband and I have learned to say no to a lot of things. And sometimes it looks really good, and maybe it is really good, like serving in a, kingdom capacity, but knowing that we need to, be there for our kids and just have those moments around the dinner table every so often, they're the most important. Sorry, they're the most important thing. Look at me getting choked up, like my kids. They are the next generation. Our marriage is super important, and it has a ripple effect as well. So just putting those two things first, and then just saying no to the things that might matter, but not as much as the things that matter to us.
Yeah, and saying I don't want it isn't necessarily always just because it's a bad thing or a wrong thing. Sometimes it's just not the right thing in this season or for us right now. So that's important to know when we're thinking about that. So just in the last 30 seconds that we have, how do you hope listeners will be impacted by this song's message?
I hope that they look around at what's, taking up their time, what's taking up their talent and their treasure. Look around them and sort of take inventory, and just making sure that you're focusing all of your efforts as a listener on God, whether that's in, like I said, your family and your boundaries, or whether that's in opportunities and money and wealth. Just putting it all in the hands of the Lord, and making sure that you understand that God has given it to you, and so he will take care of the rest.
Well, that's great. Thank you so much. Sorry, for sharing with us today. We're so grateful to have you here.
Thanks for having me.